Well, well, well. The Tether FUD is finally here. What is the U.S. government looking to do, and why is Bitcoin dumping? How far will it go? We'll talk about that. Also, on the flip side, could Microsoft start buying Bitcoin in the very near future? According to statistics last year, Microsoft was the most valuable company in the entire world, worth over $3 trillion. There's a vote happening. We're going to break that entire situation down. What's the likelihood of shareholders approving a Bitcoin strategy for Microsoft? We're also going to talk about some XRP news. What are some meta plays to help you make a lot of money? We got Forrest joining us to break some down. We know he's hit it big on a few ones, and I think he's got a big one in pocket right now as well, something that I've got exposure to. We'll have him break it down a little bit further. We're going to take a look at some charts and what the SEC is looking to do with crypto next year and how that can affect your portfolios. We have that and much, much more in today's episode of Sin City Crypto. Let's go.
Hola! It's your boy, Big Rob, back in the house. Welcome to Sin City Crypto. If it's your first time checking us out, we're the entertainment-focused cryptocurrency channel. We take old, boring, and stale information and repackage that whole thing up in a fun and not boring kind of way. Well, let me tell you, a lot of volatility today. The last 24 hours, last 10 hours, we've seen 68,000. We've also seen 66,000.
Wow.
And that's actually come in the last 10 minutes.
That's crazy.
And so a lot of volatility, a lot of liquidations going on currently at this moment. So you think a lot of the longs are just getting hammered because of that end of the month perception that we're going to get to 70,000?
No.
Think it's manipulated? What do you think's going on, bro?
I think it's this. Yeah. We have Forrest joining us today, as he does every Friday. Forrest, welcome back. What are your thoughts on why the market's kind of taking a dump? Do you think it's what Robin said as far as people expecting a price run up, or do you think it's this whole Tether situation that we just got?
It's the Tether situation, 100%.
Now we know Tether, right? Market cap of around 120 billion. Almost every single trading pair with stable coins is with Tether. Forrest, what would a sanction or, dare I say it, maybe banning Tether in the U.S., what would that do to the crypto markets? If we're thinking about worst case scenario here.
It'd be like the COVID drop, I think. I think it'd be like as bad as COVID was for Bitcoin. I'm thinking like 20K Bitcoin.
Really?
Sorry, I'm just looking at the charts right now. But
20K
Tether
Bitcoin,
said there's
huh?
been no additional probe. Like I don't know exactly. Like we don't know exactly to what extent this news is. Like I'm getting one notification that says, let me pull it up here on my U.S. Treasury considered, past tense, considered sanctions on Tether, but Tether reports no indication of a broader probe. So it looks like they considered it, but they're not actually probing them. And then I've seen another notification that says that they are probing Tether.
Yeah.
I think this is silly because Tether's a huge buyer of U.S. Treasuries, and we already are seeing de-dollarization.
Top 25,
yields.
Forrest. Top 25.
Yeah, it's insane. But I don't know. Maybe they're clearing the way for a more regulated stablecoin provider like Circle or Ripple.
But why not, if that's the issue then, why not bring it into compliance then, right? Give them a road and say, hey, this is what you got to do. You want to be a U.S. regulated, compliant, whatever terminology you want to use, stablecoin in the U.S. operating. These are the steps you need to take. This is what we need to see. And I'm sure Tether wouldn't have an issue doing it. You know, we know Tether has blacklisted wallets that the government, the DOJ, has requested, not just from the U.S., but from Europe and some other countries as well. You know, I saw this one, Cointelegraph. According to people familiar with the matter, Tether is being investigated for possible sanctions and money laundering violations. Now, it's funny because JP Morgan Chase also, I think they just settled on a fine for the same thing, sanctions and money laundering violations. But JP Morgan is allowed to continue to offer banking services.
I don't think that they're trying to shut them down. I think it's just the SEC going through their normal.
It's not the SEC.
Well,
the Treasury.
The government. Excuse me, the government. Now, the SEC has fined J.P. Morgan Chase multiple times in the past. They fined Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and so it's not anything new for major financial institutions or just some of the big players in finance to get, be put in the crosshairs by the U.S. government, whether or not the branch is the SEC or the Justice Department.
But something tells me that they're not going to get the same treatment that J.P. Morgan did. Was, hey, you know what? Just pay a fine and go on with your business.
I agree. There's less protection from Congress, because here's the thing. There's Congress officials that got money support, campaign support, got into the position that they're in because of campaign donations, things of that nature. And so I think that when the United States is going after some of the big banks and big financial institutions, they'll pay their fine, but you know what? They're backstopped by the U.S. government, at least by the elected officials that owe them favors, right? And I think that the favors aren't there for Tether, so they'll probably get the fine. They'll probably, I don't know what kind of judicial outcome would come. I don't know what the penalties are exactly, but I'm just going to assume it's going to be fines and penalties. It's not like they're going to be forced to shut down. If that's kind of what you were alluding to, not going to happen. Not going to happen. I just don't see any way that their company is not allowed to operate, especially when there's such a big buyer of U.S. Treasury bonds. Somebody, they won't let it happen. I mean, do you think that there's a risk potential for a cease of operations with Tether? Is that kind of where you're getting at? That's almost what I feel like you're saying.
It's just hard for me not to have that thought.
I mean, do you think that the same allegations, the same charges going to Bank of America, there's no chance they shut them down, right?
No.
Then that's the same premise.
No, but it's not.
It is.
It's not. You're talking about the banking sector, and you're talking about the crypto banking sector. They don't give a shit about.
But why
crypto.
wouldn't they shut down the banking sector? Because of how much investment?
Because those are their
there is in the
homies.
government. Because of how much investment is in homegrown product, and so the amount of investment that's in homegrown product from Tether, it's in the.
Don't put it past the government, bro. Don't put it past the government. Forrest, you want to chime in on this conversation here? Any thoughts on?
Yeah. So the incentive to take out Tether, and I think there's a lot of incentive to take out Tether, is they made more money than BlackRock last year with like 100 employees, like some ridiculously low amount of employees. They have it's like the same thing they did with Binance, right? They had to put Binance in check. They put CZ in jail. Wouldn't be surprised if they wanted to take out Tether and implement some sort of dominant stable coin that they have a say over and they have influence over, whether that's Circle or whether it probably wouldn't be PayPal. I think it would, potentially be Circle with USDC or Ripple with their RLUSD that they're launching soon. I don't believe they have a ton of control over Tether. So there's really two ways that they can do it. They can either tell Tether to get in check, get in line, or they can just try to take them out completely. I do think they could take them out. I think Tether's done really, really shady things in the past. And if they wanted to go down that path, they could. The only problem with that is it would make BlackRock look pretty rough, getting everybody and all of their investors into Bitcoin and then sending Bitcoin down to like 20K. That would really do a lot of damage to the future of Bitcoin.
Let me ask you, Forrest, what do you envision for taking out Tether, right? Because at the end of the day, it's a network-based token, right? It's a ERC20. We'll just stick to the ERC20. That's the one that has the most liquidity and has the most tethers there. And so, can you ban a ERC20 token without banning anything else in the Ethereum ecosystem? Or how does that work? And then you got DeFi, and
that's a good question. But they can probably. I mean, here's just my 2 cents. They could probably stop them from minting it. But can they ban the token?
But they can't stop them from minting it.
Well, they did it. But they did it to. What was that company that was doing it for Binance? BUSD.
Oh,
Yeah, they Paxos.
Paxos.
Yeah,
They told
I
Paxos
think
stop minting.
but Paxos is still
yeah.
around. And Paxos is still
I think they could say
Not BUSD.
I'm not a legal expert. I don't know exactly, but I think they could do, Tether does not operate in the United States. They're not based in the United States, and I don't believe they're regulated in the same way in the United States that Circle is. So I'm sure that they could find any reason to ban them or to make, essentially sanction them. That's what they say they're considering doing. I don't know if that means that they just can't buy U.S. Treasuries anymore. Whether they're banning the stablecoin or not is unclear. Maybe it just means that, hey, you're not going to be able to buy U.S. Treasuries, or maybe
that would be so
I don't know
dumb.
exactly what that looks like. But
that would be stupid.
yeah, there's such a bad history. Like if you, I think CoffeeZilla last market cycle did a really good deep dive onto Tether and like all the fraud that they committed. I think that they could go digging and just say, yeah, Tether's fraudulent. We're not gonna let them buy U.S. Treasuries, and I think that would have a pretty negative impact on the crypto industry.
I would just be
as a whole.
curious if there is a directive to halt the movement of Tether on exchanges, whether or not Coinbase and Kraken and other U.S. based exchanges would comply, right? Because we know that. The SEC, for example, has come out and said, hey, this, Solana, whatever it is, and this one, these are securities, you're trading securities, but they stayed on the
But I think
the
this
market
is a
the
little
whole time.
different, though.
It is a little different. But that's why I said I'm curious to see how Coinbase would move forward.
But I think the question you brought up is an important one. Can they ban an ERC20 token? Now, I think they can stop Tether from minting new ones, but I don't think they're going to ban.
They can't stop them from minting new ones.
Yes, they can.
Tether is an offshore. They mint tokens at their leisure. There's no permission granted by the U.S. government.
They think they.
No. I'm just saying they can get sued, and I mean I'm sure they can make it as difficult as possible, but at the end of the day, you can't stop someone from minting tokens. In the same way, you can sit here and say, hey, this foreign guy, right? You can say this NFT degen kingpin over in we're gonna stop you from minting NFTs. Like, how are you gonna stop me from minting NFTs? Like, tell me how you stop me from minting NFTs. The same can be said. Tell me how you're gonna stop me from minting Tether tokens.
Don't. It worked with Iran.
I mean, you could threaten.
It worked with Iran when Biden and Kamala Harris said don't.
I mean, that's just the beauty of crypto is that legislation can come in and be like, well, we're not going to allow this, and we'll try to stop you. We're going to ban Bitcoin. We'll try. Like it's still it's going to be mined, and if someone wants to mint an ERC20 token, they can.
I got a question.
Yeah,
for you
but
guys.
at the same time, they threw the Tornado Cash dude in jail. I
still
think they
use
could
it.
throw the CEO and the guy, the Tether guys in jail as well. If they really wanted to.
I don't for a second think they won't throw a Tether person in jail. Like 100%. I think the extradited, gets arrested by officials. I don't know where they're located at. I don't know if it's in Singapore or wherever it is. Could they get arrested there and then extradited? Like 100%. Like I don't for a second think that they won't face some kind of prosecution if the U.S. government deems them.
But look what they did, Rocco. I'll get to you.
But what I'm saying is that the last thing I'll just say is that Tornado Cash still operates. It's still there. It's still working. It's operational. You can still use it.
Do you remember anyone that their wallet has used Tornado Cash was blacklisted?
Yeah,
and they would go after it.
I can still use Tornado Cash right now.
But are you going to take that risk that the DOJ is going to come after you? I think that's the thing. Rocco, you said you had a question.
Yes, basically that's where all the XRP stablecoin is gonna work in all of this, since it's the only one that pretty much has a clarity and much market is gonna take it from Tether if this thing goes down. It's probably more a question for Forrest.
I'll just say that I think this is an opportunity for another stablecoin to
say
fill the
USDC
ranks.
would be at the front of that line.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe it's Ripple, man. Maybe.
Oh. You got any thoughts on that for us?
Yeah, Ripple's looking good. They just had like a fund put $1 billion on chain or commit $1 billion on chain. That's like a seventh of all of the TVL on Solana, and that's just from one fund putting a bit. Like,
is this what you're talking about right here?
Like,
yeah,
1 billion tokenized fund for data center investments on XRP Ledger.
Also,
that is an insane amount of money to put put up from one fund.
If you're think about this, if you're a company and now you're kind of sweating the fact that you got Tether, I mean, are you gonna go list USDC or are you gonna list, the Ripple based token that's also, the stable coin, when you know that one's probably more green light? And I know that that particular stable coin hasn't been approved by the SEC, but there realistically, when you think about it, there's probably less threat to get sued if you're Ripple with your stable coin versus USDC, because USDC is kind of sitting on an island by itself too. Like, hey, you know what? Tether's in the crosshairs. Is USDC next?
But USDC's got BlackRock though. They got BlackRock. They got
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how it plays.
I think there's probably a lot of giant companies that have exposure to Tether in the U.S. That are also that have that same kind of perception. Oh well, BlackRock has investment in Circle. Well, I'm sure there's a ton of other U.S. based companies that are prominent that have investment in Tether.
You think so? I would be curious to see what that looks like, because I
mean, maybe not direct 1-to-1, but I'm sure there's all kinds of leverage with those treasuries in some form or fashion that touches a lot of U.S. based companies. I'm sure there's a lot of probably fintech that's sweating bullets right now in the United States because of this.
That'd be interesting. I do want to, Forrest, you want to queue up a Bitcoin chart? I just want to show something really quick. And so here you can see on the 4-hour, that hollowed out candle. That means that's a liquidation candle. So a lot of money's been liquidated. And the way you can see that is if you have this liquidity flow index indicator, which is a custom Sin City indicator. You can also see here the amount. $78 million has been liquidated in the last 1 hour, with 98% of them being longs. Forrest, it seems like BTC's price is starting to rebound a little bit at $67,000. What are you seeing? What are you seeing on the chart? And are you seeing a recovery, or I saw Fed Bomb in here said dump just getting started. What are you seeing on the chart there?
Yeah, I actually bought the dip here just now as the stream was getting started on Doge, to be particular, and I'm also long I was long on this guy, this wick from the other day. I had my stop loss up here. It would have gotten taken out, but I moved my stop loss down out of this range and back down into support, just because of the news that the founder, CEO of Tether, has gone on the record and said they are not probing us. We have not received anything. And I think that's what's driving price back up. I think you also had just a lot of support down here. I've got the margin pressure levels on, and if we take this most recent one off, this is why I bought Bitcoin the other day when it dropped down to the 65 and change level, 65K. I think it was like 65.2 is what it came down to. We have like 3 really, really strong support levels. There's like a ton of incentive to actually buy here if Bitcoin's price drops down into this region. If we see this get taken out, it's air. Well, I would say it's completely air, but there's not a ton of like margin pressure level support. There's just like, probably going to be some spot bids and some liquidity at 63. But then it's like 61's the level that you really want to see hold. And that would create still a higher low. I'm not freaking out on this news. I do think like if U.S. Treasury like legit, and I don't think they are, because it's not in their interest to do so. Like they need buyers for their debt. Like the U.S. needs buyers for the debt, and Tether is a big buyer of their debt. So I don't think it necessarily makes a lot of sense unless there's some sort of like bigger Billions-esque, if anyone watches that show, play going on to try to take out Tether and jockey in Circle, or increase the dominance of Ripple or their stable coin. So maybe there's some incentive there. But as far as like the actual treasury goes, like I don't think it makes a ton of sense for them to go after them. So for now, bought the dip on Doge, defended my long on Bitcoin. We want to see 61K hold if we do fall over. But what I will say is, so far, especially based on this, this bud still being in the air here, the reaction that we've gotten below this region has been very, very strong, and that is very bullish, right? What you don't want to see if we go like over into I know it's difficult to see there because it's in the corner, but anytime you just see wicks and rejections up into a region, that's bearish. Anytime you see very strong wicks from to the downside being bought back up, that is usually very strong. It's signal strength and additional upside. So if we close today's daily candle up where we're at right now, I actually think that's a pretty bullish setup because we've gone down and taken out a lot of longs, liquidated a bunch of longs. Some orders have probably been filled, some people that kind of felt iced out and left behind. And we're seeing a ton of demand come in this region despite the FUD. If we start dipping back down into this region and starting to trying to fill this wick, I don't like that. I really don't, despite the fact that we do have a lot of support down here. I just don't like the weakness from Bitcoin if we start moving back down towards that wick. If we hold above 67 here, I say this looks super, super strong and continuation higher is going to be the case. If we get additional clarity and the Department of Justice or the Treasury or the SEC starts going after Tether in a big way, then I want to get out of the way of that. And I do think there would be a lot of downside for Bitcoin because Tether's such a linchpin in the entire crypto space. I don't think that's going to happen, but if it does, I will step out of the way of that. And I will, I'll shut down the longs and look to get out of the market and de-risk and buy lower. But for right now, I'd say this is, with the limited amount of data that we have and the strong reaction that we got from Bitcoin here, I'd say this looks strong and it looks pretty similar to the example that we got over here after our 49K low, or I'm sorry, our 53K low, right where we popped back up. We got this liquidation back down, created your kind of, inverse head and shoulders here. And we ended up continuing on much, much higher before correcting again. So I think this could be the launch point or the, catalyst and price action that does, help us get to 70K or higher. But yeah, taking it hour by hour here, pretty volatile price action.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Forrest. Before we get into the some bullish news, do want to give a big thank you. Today's show is brought to you by Cam's Blue Wire Technology. If you run a business, you want to maximize your networking, IT, and cybersecurity, Cam's has got you covered. If you guys have been watching our show, they've been our longest tenure sponsor, and it's for good reason. We leverage them in so many different ways to make sure that the quality you get is crystal clear. All of our networking is up to date, and we're free from any cybersecurity issues. If you want the same for your business, visit bluewiretech.com or click the link in the description of this video. I was going to ask our in-house Bitcoin quant what she thought, but we'll ask her towards the end, and we'll get another price prediction. Will she be right again? That's 4 weeks in a row. But as you see on your thumbnail and the title, Microsoft, are they about to start buying Bitcoin? Me, oh my, let's talk about it. So Microsoft to vote for or against the assessment of investing in Bitcoin during their shareholder meeting in December, with the vote coming December 10th. Now, there was a lot of speculation. Hey, is this true? Is it not? This is directly from the SEC.gov. And as you can see here, all the different voting items that they're voting for nominees to their board, the board of directors. And you also have on the far right here, the check marks and the X's for and against what the board recommends. Now, just because a board recommends something doesn't mean that it's what's going to happen. It's just saying, hey, this is what we think you should do. But at the end of the day, you're the shareholder. Your vote is what matters. You can see here, number 5, assessment of investing in Bitcoin. The board is recommending an against vote. So they're recommending against it. We take a look at how big could this potentially be. I want you to look at this chart from Statista. 2023 market cap. Microsoft was the only company in the world worth over $3 trillion, coming in at $3.123 trillion. We take a look at now, what are the odds of this happening? What are the odds of it passing? If it passes, Microsoft, in 2024, I don't think they're number 1 anymore, but they're top 5 in the world. It's going to start buying Bitcoin, right? And you go down this list here. You won't even find MicroStrategy, right? You won't even find MicroStrategy on this list. And you have the top 1, according to the 2023 statistics, that could be buying. Now, how does the shareholders break down, and what can we assume the votes are going to be? So this is the major shareholders of Microsoft and what percentage they hold a position, right? So number one is Vanguard. They have around 9%. They own 9% of the Microsoft stock. And we know Vanguard is not really pro-Bitcoin. They refuse to list a Bitcoin ETF. They refuse to launch one on their own. They're the second largest asset manager in the world. We can assume they're going to vote no. Number two, though, is BlackRock. You don't need me to explain to you. They're super bullish on Bitcoin. They own around 5.7%. The next one is State Street, another giant. We might be wondering, are they pro-Bitcoin? Are they not? Let me pull up. This is from their website, their digital asset solutions. And this one line should answer that question for you. As the digital asset space continues to mature, we are building solutions to service, create, and safekeep digital assets. Our vision is to enable core digital asset infrastructure for you and drive growth as a trusted provider of end-to-end solutions on a secure, interoperable blockchain. So we can assume, extrapolating, that their vote probably would be yes. Fidelity, they have their own ETF. They have a digital asset section or digital asset management section. They're probably going to vote yes. Geode is a subsidy of Fidelity. And they have been buying shares of Marathon Digital, which is a Bitcoin mining company. So we can assume that their vote will also be yes. T. Rowe Price, JP Morgan Chase, Eaton Vance, and BlackRock Life, we can assume a majority of those will be yes also. So possibly, I think chances are pretty good. And I think that the nail in the coffin here is for someone at that board meeting or someone at that shareholder meeting to pull up this chart and say, hey guys, look at this chart. This is MicroStrategy stock, okay? And in 2020, what was it 2020 or 2021? They adopted the Bitcoin strategy. And we'll look at what their stock did, going from around $20 to over $235. It did go, well, that can't be right. It has to be more than that. Wasn't it? Let me take a look here. Where the price is currently right now for MicroStrategy should be over $236. Okay. Did it get over like $600-700? Did they have a stock split? Forrest, you know anything about this? Did they have a stock split?
Yeah, they had a stock split.
Okay, they had a stock. I was like, it doesn't sound familiar. All right, so they had a stock split. So the valuation of the company has gone up 6, 7, 8x. So I think this chart right here, this parabolic chart, I don't know. What are your thoughts on the ramifications, Forrest, if Microsoft, if this vote passes, what it could potentially do for BTC, and maybe share your opinion on what do you think the odds are of it happening?
Odds of it happening, I say, would be like 5 to 10%. 5 to 10%,
low, huh?
and that's like, yeah, 5 to 10%, and that's if Trump gets elected and they have some level of comfort that a Bitcoin strategic reserve is coming on down the pipeline. That like maybe 20%. I just don't think they need to buy Bitcoin personally. Like, I don't think that like Microsoft needs to adopt that strategy. Like, but as far as like the impact it would have on Bitcoin, if they do start buying Bitcoin, like, it'd be massive. It'd be Bitcoin to all-time highs if they're not already there by the date that this is taking place. I think Robin said December 5th, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, it would be super, 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 super bullish. Can't express enough how bullish that it would be. But I don't think it's like highlight. I'm not like in the 80-90% chance this is going through. I'm like 5, 10, 15%.
I'm 50-50, bro.
Like,
I'm 50-50.
Yeah, I'm a little bit lower.
I'm 50-50. I think with BlackRock having a sizable position, State Street, you got Fidelity in there. I know Vanguard is a big one here, almost 10%. And the board voted against it. But I don't know, man. I think a lot of shareholders, I mean, how could, Forrest, imagine you have $1 billion in Microsoft stock, okay? You're just like, well, I don't know, maybe you're an employee or someone who bought very early. You've made good money. You're still sitting in it. Like, okay, it's got ChatGPT. Obviously, we know Microsoft is a massive software company. And you're looking next door, you're looking at MicroStrategy. You're like, damn, those guys made a lot of money. And you can literally point to the exact reason why. And it is because they adopted a Bitcoin strategy. You don't think that outside of the large institutional shareholders like Vanguard, like maybe some of the other ones that would vote against it, that more shareholders wouldn't be excited for a new strategy that has proven to bring value to not only the company, but obviously to the shareholders as well? You don't think that's kind of going to have maybe like a trickle-down effect? I don't know.
No, I don't think so at all, because If I'm a large Microsoft holder, like let's say I've got $100 million invested in Microsoft, I could sell some of that Microsoft and buy Bitcoin if I want, or I can take another portion of my portfolio and buy IBIT, the Bitcoin ETF, or some form of Bitcoin. Or if I really wanted, leveraged exposure to Bitcoin, I could buy MicroStrategy stock. It blends that Bitcoin risk into Microsoft, and that makes Microsoft stock, in my opinion, much less attractive. As an investor, I want to be able to adjust my Bitcoin position accordingly and adjust my Microsoft position separately. When you blend and merge those two things together, yes, it would be super bullish for Bitcoin, but all of a sudden it does not give you the ability to separate out the Bitcoin exposure from Microsoft stock. And I think that's very unattractive to investors. I think the two should remain separate. I'm not saying that I hate Bitcoin or think bearish on Bitcoin. I just think it doesn't make sense to adopt a Bitcoin strategy for a company as large as Microsoft. And I think it adds risk to the stock and would be bad for the stock.
Before us, you have, okay, so you mentioned like, hey, if they want exposure, sure, but Microsoft pays dividends, and they pay dividends based on how the company and the revenue is doing, right? And so, I don't know. I can have exposure to Microsoft, who has exposure to Bitcoin. I can also get dividends from the stock itself. I don't know. To me, it's a win-win. Maybe I'm being overly bullish. I'm curious to get Rob's take on this one. What are your thoughts on this, Rob, if you want to throw a probability out there? And if it does get approved, what do you think that means for the rest of, let's say, Apple, let's say NVIDIA, say some of the other large companies here?
Well, just to kind of chime in on what Forrest was saying, like, hey, if you want to get exposure to Bitcoin, there are plenty of avenues to do so. Why do it through Microsoft? But they have $300 billion worth of treasury funds, right? Half of it right now is in liquid cash and equivalents. The other half is an investment, which also includes commodities. So I don't think that what they're going to do is go all in. Let's just say it did pass, for example. I don't think that they would go, not even that I think. They're not going to go all in on Bitcoin. It's just going to be a part of their portfolio. And so, what is that amount? Would it be some of that cash on hand? Would they reallocate some of their already long-term investments that they have as part of their treasury and move it over to Bitcoin? I think it's probably a little bit of both. I think they take a certain percentage of cash on hand, buy Bitcoin, sell or rebalance some of their current commodities and other assets that are comparable to Bitcoin, move those over to Bitcoin. I think that's what would happen. And with that said, the commodities there, I don't know their exact breakdown, but I'm sure that Microsoft holding commodities in the treasury asset, they probably hold gold too. So the argument that, hey, if you want to hold gold, why do it through Microsoft? I think it's just part of a balanced, risk management. It's part of the risk management when it comes to holding that much cash, because $300 billion in treasury assets for a company is larger than 99% of US-based companies. So you have to manage that in a strategic way. That's why they always say strategic Bitcoin reserve, right? Because if you don't have a strategy for your cash, we know that inflation is going to chip away at it slowly. Now, the likelihood, I agree with Force. I think it's probably highly unlikely that it passes. If I had to put a percentage on there, I'm probably closer to maybe 20%. Okay. On the higher end. I would be very surprised. And the reason being is that MicroStrategy was MicroStrategy, they're a tech-driven company, but they're a tech-driven company that was investing in products and futures, right? They weren't building anything. Microsoft has gotten to where they're at because there's a Windows computer in every household, right? Or at least Windows products in every household. There's Microsoft products everywhere, right? You might not even realize it could be on your freaking television. You have or on your television could be running Microsoft products on there. Your refrigerator, even your computer. I mean, even if you're in the Apple ecosystem, you probably in some way, shape, or form have Microsoft products at home, even if you're just using Microsoft Word on your MacBook.
Xbox is Microsoft.
Yeah, and so I think that the companies stand for two different things. Now, with that said, you still got cash on hand. You still got to fight against inflation.
What do the shareholders want, Robin? They want to make money.
But that's what I'm saying. The shareholders have bought into Microsoft because they are a tech company with a product. People bought into MicroStrategy because they were a tech-driven company that was investing in other tech companies or tech sectors, right? They weren't built. There wasn't no MicroStrategy phone. There was no MicroStrategy software that you're downloading and creating.
Robin, I think you're complicating it. I think the simplest way to look at this is, will it add revenue and will it add value to the company?
You're not trying to add. The thing is, why did let me ask you one question. It's not about revenue. It's about protecting against inflation. That's why MicroStrategy adopted the Bitcoin standard. It was because they wanted to go against inflation. I mean, at the early days, you can listen to the thousands of podcasts that Michael Saylor's been on. Why did he choose Bitcoin? It was because the other options couldn't outpace inflation. And it was just to preserve wealth. And I think that that's what they're doing here. Now, Microsoft, or any company for that nature that's trying to use their treasury assets, is just trying to combat inflation and not lose money. And I think that that's where we're at. And so the thesis of, well, Microsoft's going to do it just so they can make money off of returns, they're not. They're just trying not to lose money against the
shareholders
inflation.
are going to want, right?
No, the shareholders are going to look at it as speculative. They're going to be like, why do we need Bitcoin? They're not going to understand it. The shareholders aren't going to understand it. They're not going to get it.
BlackRock understands it.
Yeah, but they're not.
5%. That's big. It's a big share. It's a big share. That's all I'm saying. Look, at the end of the day, we don't know, right? We're just speculating here. Forrest, I want to highlight a comment from Diamond Hands Daryl. He wants to know, is there any specific indicator you use to look at long and short positions? I know you brought up the margin pressure levels. Anything you typically use? I know you're more of an avid trader than I am. So I don't know. Do you, anything you want to share with our friend Daryl?
Sure, I can share my screen real quick if we've got the time to run through this. Unless I can just give the names of what I use. Yeah, okay, let's share my screen. Share here. We've got a Bitcoin chart pulled up. Yeah, so the main thing that I use to kind of track support and resistance in the markets are this is an indicator that I designed probably like 2 years ago. Essentially, I'm tracking what leverage incentive trading behavior in the market. I need to like get some documentation up for these. They actually are not like up for sale anymore, but I'll try to get them back up for sale. Essentially, what's happening here is price action dips into these levels. The incentives in the market for longs are shifting because at these 3 points, you can now long Bitcoin and maintain a liquidation point below these local lows at these respective leverage amounts, 4x, 10x, and 5x. I know that's really confusing, especially if you don't leverage trade or you don't understand how leverage works. So I'm not going to like spend an hour here trying to explain those kind of basics. But all you need to know is like you slap on these indicators on the big local lows, the big liquidation levels. And this simply tells you that as price gets down to these levels, right, there's a lot of buyer incentives down here. There's a lot of buyers that want to step into this market because their risk, their risk is dramatically decreased all of a sudden within a very short price action, price range. As price dips down in this region, they can now long on higher amounts of leverage and protect their liquidation points against rock solid support levels. And that creates a lot of buying pressure concentrated in one little area and pushes price back up, which is exactly what we saw in this latest dip. So that's personally what I use. I use a variety of different indicators, but that's kind of the tried and true one that I personally like to trade with. But there's so many indicators out there. And a lot of them are great. It's more about, strategy and having discipline to stick to a strategy versus finding some magic indicator that is, going to make you a ton of money. It's more about the actual trade execution and risk management than it is the indicator.
Awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that for us. I want to share this piece of news as well. New York Stock Exchange wants to extend their trading to 22 hours a day on its ARC exchange, and I believe it's going to be 7 days a week.
Why not go 24? I mean, come on.
Listen, we need 2 hours, man. 2 hour break, dude. How are the insiders, Robin, going to do pre-market and after-market trading, dude? Think about them. You're so selfish.
That's like filling your gas.
You are
tank.
so
That's like
selfish.
filling up your gas tank two gallons before
You're
it's
being
completely
selfish.
full. You got a 10-gallon gas tank. You're putting 8.8
Listen,
gallons.
you're
in
not
there. Like,
thinking
stop.
about the privileged people who get to trade aftermarket and before market open, man. If we go 24 hours, how is that going to happen? Have some freaking decency, man. God. But this is a trend we're going, guys. And this is all thanks to Bitcoin and crypto. And so when we talk about the world of finance and Web 2 integrating and slowly shifting over to what the space you're in right now, these are all signs that it is actually happening. Just take a quick peek at the rest of the markets. So Bitcoin currently sitting at $67,320. Seems like it has rebounded from that, I don't want to call it a flash crash, a flash dip down to that 66.3 level. ETH under 2,500 bucks. Forrest, just real quick, man, it's so hard to be bullish on ETH. I mean, I feel like I'm still bullish on ETH, but are you getting worried here, or is this just the calm before the storm for this cycle?
Well, the bull case for ETH is that BlackRock supports it, and BlackRock's trying to build around it, has a fund that's live on Ethereum.
Outside
the
of
bear
that,
case for
though.
ETH is, I'm sorry?
Outside of that, though.
Outside of that, it gets, and the other bull cases like tokenomics are fairly solid with like, you know, being deflationary at times. And then you also have like Lindy effect, just meaning that it's been around. A lot of people have heard the name Ethereum, has kind of established that brand awareness. Even more so than Solana. Like, I think a lot of people last cycle that are going to return if we go into a bull market are going to know exactly what Ethereum is, versus, you know, Solana's taken longer. You know, it just kind of has a little bit of a head start in terms of awareness. The biggest problem that Ethereum is facing right now is these layer twos. These layer twos extrapolate away or extract away a lot of the transaction fees and value accrual away from the Ethereum token, right? So you can go on Base right now, and you do use Ethereum as gas on Base. If you go to Optimism or Polygon, you're essentially using the Ethereum virtual machine on a layer two, but you're transacting in Polygon tokens or Optimism tokens, and there's less of a reason to hold Ethereum. Ethereum is essentially just a gas token, or, you know, it represents computation, you know, right to computational power on the Ethereum network. Well, if you're just going straight to Base, and Base isn't the best example because you do still use Ethereum, but that Ethereum is usually just being collected by validators on the Base network that are, a lot of them are owned by Coinbase, and Coinbase is just turning around and selling that ETH. So it doesn't actually accrue back to the layer one Ethereum token in terms of demand for ETH. So whereas Solana is monolithic in nature and structure, and it's just one big network. And if you want to transact on Solana, you got to use Solana tokens. You got to buy Solana, and there's a burn, 50% burn mechanism, and staking and whatnot. So like Solana, just it's faster, it drives more demand, more people use it right now versus Ethereum, and Ethereum just outsources a lot of its computational, you know, throughput to layer twos that don't accrue value back to the Ethereum network. So it's a big problem for ETH right now, and we'll see if they can solve it. But yeah, it's the L2s just fracture all that liquidity away. There's so many things wrong with the way that Ethereum goes about scaling if your goal is to accrue value back to the ETH token.
You know, Forrest, and, you know, we talked about this, and Rob doesn't think it's a big deal, but I think Uniswap doing their own chain and taking those transactions away from the ETH network, I think that's a very big net negative for Ethereum. You're talking about the largest DEX, majority of the time in the entire crypto space, definitely on ETH. If they're running transactions on their own chain outside of ETH, that ain't good, dude. And so I kind of agree with you. You know, I think the institutional part of it is big enough to get ETH to that 10, 15K level. But if you think retail is going to pile in to just ETH like it did last cycle, I got another thing coming for you, man. You have so many other options. You got Toncoin, you have Solana, you're going to have Avalanche with the gaming, you're going to have Cardano with the Bitcoin bridge now. I mean, it's got a lot of competition, and I don't know. I mean, I still hold ETH. I haven't panic sold my ETH. But if you're like DCAing into Ethereum, I might take a hard look at maybe decreasing it, or I don't know. It's just interesting. Guys, before we wrap this thing up, every Friday after the live show, we do a different kind of show. We're expanding outside of crypto, and it's a channel we started, and we've been doing podcasts on it. It's called Bold Broadcasting, and so I just dropped the link to the new live stream that we're doing right after the show today. So if you haven't checked it out, if you want to hear us discuss and give our thoughts on topics outside of cryptocurrency, highly recommend you go visit.
At least go over there and give us a sub there. We got about 100 subscribers. There's 200 plus people here watching. So do us a favor. Go subscribe. And if you want to hear a little bit more of a conversation from the three of us here.
You definitely hear more from Ashley than on today's show, which Ashley, I was going to...
Did y'all even know I was here today or like...
Well, hold on. If you go back and watch the show, I said when we're talking about Bitcoin going down, I was going to ask our in-house crypto Bitcoin quant what she thought, and you weren't here, so I'm sorry. Now
Are you going to ask me now or like
yes,
are we just...
I am.
Okay.
So every Friday we do a Monday morning Bitcoin price prediction. I've caught some heat from Robin and Ashley. We can't do the Price is Right rules. Okay, fine. No Price is Right rules. Whoever is the closest, doesn't matter if you go over or under. Okay, so Bitcoin's price currently $67,210. Forrest, Monday morning, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Pacific. What is the price of BTC?
69.5. Actually, no, you know what? No, I'm gonna go more bullish than that. I'm gonna say, I'm gonna go 69.5. There's a lot of asks at 70K right now. There's a lot of Bitcoin for sale at 70K. I'll go 69.5.
Rob? Remember last weekend of October.
I'll go 66.1.
Okay. Rocco?
All-time high, whatever that is.
75,000?
Never.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, 75,000. There you go.
75,000. All right.
All-time high.
All-time high. All right, I'll put that in parentheses. I'm going to be below. I'm going to go 71.2. But the most important one here, guys, ours don't matter. We've been in crypto a while, but we have a savant here with us, and it's none other than Ashley. Ashley, 4 weeks running champion.
Ew, I'm so good at this game.
Bitcoin, 67,100
Thank you.
right now. When we come in the studio on Monday morning, what will the price of Bitcoin be? Take as much time as you need. What? She's been almost spot on for 4 weeks. Why are you guys laughing? Come on.
She's going back down.
She's going back down.
66.5.
60. Well, that would
Ish.
that would be down. Okay, 66. You say 66.
We'll go 66.4.
66,400. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see who's right. I still believe we're gonna close out October strong, heading into Halloween. I think the spooky shorts are gonna get liquidated. But either way, Forrest, thank you so much for joining us today. Always a pleasure having you on Fridays. Guys, if you're not following Forrest on X, I'll just show you a little post here. He's been talking about this Luna coin since I think I got in at 4 million. It's at almost 30 million on the Solana chain, right? We're talking about market cap on the Solana chain. You can buy it on Base, ETH, or Solana. But this man has been talking about this exact meta for quite a while, and you would have caught it if you're following him on X or if you're subscribed to his Sistine.ai. I made a crap load of money there. I know a lot of people in our chat have as well. So shout out to you, Forrest. Go follow him at Sistine Research. Always a pleasure having you on, my friend. Thank you so much. And with that being said, Rocco, thank you all so much for tuning in. It was an absolute pleasure. Come join us on Bold Broadcasting. We're going live in about 10 minutes.
Be there. Come
Be
hang
there
out.
or big.
Go.
Be macro soft like Robin. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you then. Peace.
Crypto. Everybody know we here,
Macros.
folks. entertainment and info, gonna show you how to get that big dough. So every day stay tapped in, for big facts, no capping. With Bitcoin, if you're in, then you win. We divide the pie with no fractions. It's Big Rob, David, I spit the game, but they gave it. Name the coin, it's your favorite. I got dry powder, why save it? To the OGs, new beginners, special shout out to the well members. Buy a dip, sell winners. Ain't really nothing you can tell sinners. Tune in for the latest new flavors. They gonna teach us mean coins. They polarizing like barbecue chicken pizzas. I laugh with a major grin. Laggers, we trade them in. Baddies, they came to sin. And sinners gon' play to win. Screaming hola, till my bags are flowing over. Hold ya to the moon and to the solar. Won't I? Don't be letting FOMO control ya. It's over when the finger turn